Okay, we are recording. This is Robert Foley with the Pink Think. Jackie's out today. She's upstairs. She wasn't involved in this video. And we're talking about Nina Turner, although she much supports Nina Turner. Doesn't know much about her though, but I've done all the research. I've done all the work for this video. So I'm well prepared. Let's get into it. Who is Nina Turner? She's a former Ohio State Senator. She's running for the Congress in, I believe, the 11th district. Let me just double check that really quick. I think I should have it on this Wikipedia page right here. Yeah, 11th congressional district in Ohio. I'm an Ohioan. I'm not going to tell you where I live, but I'm an Ohioan. If you're in Ohio, I highly suggest you to vote for Nina Turner. She's a strong progressive. She supports Medicare for all, and I'm about to get into that. So, the Hill. We're going to go in order of how these papers are laid out here. Progressives rally around Turner House bid. Now, let's get into it. Okay, so Ohio Governor Mike DeWine will have to set a date for a special election to fill Fudge's seat. There's not a date, as I know yet. As far as I know, there's not a date yet. Phil Fudge's seat. She was picked for housing and urban development for Biden's administration. This video is not about Biden, though. This is about Nina Turner. So she was picked, Marcia Fudge, she was picked for that seat. So now it's up. So she's a strong progressive. So let's see. Should she be confirmed HUD secretary? She most likely will. I mean, there's nowhere, these like election things, contesting things with Trump, they're not going anywhere, obviously. But the Democratic primary is already expected to be crowded for a district in which winning the nomination is essentially a ticket to Congress. This is a highly Democratic area, highly minority area. And as we know, minorities tend to vote Democratic. Wonder why that is. Maybe it's because the Democrats are more helpful to minorities, and the Republicans have had a history of being against affirmative action, certain things that help these reparations. They've been in favor of voter ID, which disproportionately affects poor people, and minorities are disproportionately affected by poverty. That's not saying that all minorities are poor, obviously. I'm going off on a tangent here. But anyways, this is a heavily Democratic district, and most likely the person who gets the nomination will be the winner. So I went off on like systemic racism there, but which, is kind of a non sequitur, but not really, because she's fighting against systemic racism, obviously. She's a Democrat, and she's a strong BLM supporter. And here's the thing. We're about to get into all of her political positions, or at least the ones that are most important for being a progressive, like Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage. Anyways, Jeff Johnson is also expected to run, already taking aim at Turner by suggesting she wouldn't work with Biden. We're going to get into that, and we're going to get into who Jeff Johnson is in a minute. Here's a quote directly from Nina Turner that I really like. Trying to make the Democratic Party better and insist very strongly that it answers to the cries of the people. To me, that's just what being a Democrat is. Not just going along to get along, she said. So she's not just going to get along with the Democratic establishment. If they do something that's not a left-wing thing, and she's a left-winger, we're going to get into that. The partnership between President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris shows that people can have their differences. She called out the vice president on his record on race with substance very strongly. She did. And look at their partnership now. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he used to like oppose busing. He worked with segregationists and whatever. So now he's obviously not doing that anymore, but that's a history of being on the wrong side. Bernie Sanders marched with Martin Luther King in the Martin Luther. I don't know if he marched specifically with Martin Luther King, but he marched in the March on Washington back when Martin Luther King was protesting civil rights. I'd say Bernie Sanders had a little bit of a better record on race. But anyway, she was a strong supporter of Bernie Sanders in the primary. We're going to get into that as well. But look at that. So Kamala Harris, rightfully so, called out him saying she was that girl who couldn't, with the busing thing. And she was affected by opposing the busing. So anyways, That was an old thing. She attacked him. She was right to do so. She used to support Medicare for all. She's kind of backed off of it, but she seems like someone who's more progressive than Biden. But we're not talking about Kamala Harris. I'm sorry. We're not talking about Kamala Harris. But she rightfully so called him out on that. And look, she's working with him today. Now, obviously, Biden is not going to continue working with people who oppose busing and, people who are on the wrong side of racial issues. Obviously, he's changed. But it is important to call it to the record. And with the crime bill and stuff, like people are like, oh, he supported the crime bill. That was bad. So did Bernie Sanders. We're not saying that anyone's perfect. So, I mean, it's like, it's about the issues. So anyways, we're going to get into that. Sorry, I keep going off on tangents. I'm pretty cringy right now. So who is Jeffrey Johnson? Well, first of all, let's read this Politico article first, and then we'll get into who Jeffrey Johnson is. And here's a picture of Nina Turner. Right there at a Bernie rally. At the podium, obviously. She's not one of the people in the background. So, top progressive elected officials, groups, and entertainers are throwing their weight behind Nina Turner's congressional campaign, setting up a clash between left-wing and establishment-oriented Democrats. So these are left-wingers. Okay, so we're kind of socialist people on this channel. We're kind of left-wing people. I'm very far left. My sister's also pretty far left. But we're not talking about far left versus center left. We're talking about center left versus center, or right wing even, in the case of these Democrats who have not represented left-wing values in the past. I mean, they did. In the past they did, but recently they've moved away from that. I'm getting off topic again. So this is left-wing versus establishment and oriented Democrats. Representative Ro Khanna, we love him. Bernie Sanders' former campaign co-chair. Representative-elect Cori Bush, we love her. She is awesome. She's a Black Lives Matter activist who unseated incumbent Democrat, Lacey Clay, and Minnesota Attorney General. Okay, are endorsing Turner. Her campaign told Politico. This is a Politico article. I'll put all the links to these articles in the description. Our Revolution, a progressive organization founded by Sanders and previously led by Turner, will be backing her bid as well. This is a quote from Representative Ro Khanna, a progressive, a Medicare for All supporter. Nina will bring a phenomenal commitment to a $15 minimum wage, which Biden says he supports. Let's hold him to that. Medicare for all and free public college. To an extent, Biden he doesn't support completely free public college for everybody, but he said on his campaign website, we read this aloud, was it $125,000 a year? Yeah. Making public colleges free for people who make less than $125,000 a year, or $125,000 a year or less. So the idea that she won't work with Biden on things like that is preposterous, because she's not going to work with Biden to increase the military budget. She's not going to work with Biden to cut corporate taxes. Now, let's hope he doesn't try to do anything like that. I don't think he will. He's promised not to. But if he does something that's not sufficiently left-wing, or something that's bad, let's say, for the left-wing movement, she's not going to work with him. If he says, I'm going to support a $15 minimum wage, she will work with him on that because she also supports that. If he even pushes for a public option, you've got to calculate. So Bernie Sanders voted for Obamacare, even though it was not a single-payer system, because it was objectively better than what we had. So I'm hoping she'll be smart, and I think she will. She has pretty good instincts to vote, sort of, I don't know if the word is pragmatically, but to vote on things that are objectively better, even if they're not everything she wants. So the idea that she won't work is preposterous. And there's also arguments that, she won't win because she's a progressive. We're also going to get into that in a bit. But anyways, this is an endorsement of conviction. I am all in for her. This is an endorsement of conviction. I'll be emailing my list, raising money, and mobilizing volunteers. Raising money. I've already donated. I think you should donate. But that was a quote from Ro Khanna. Marsha Fudge, we already talked about her. Okay, another candidate. Let me put this in a pile. Another candidate, former Cleveland City Councilman Jeff Johnson, he's also a former state senator, has already taken shot at Turner, suggesting that the progressive wouldn't work with Biden if elected. Turner was a fierce defender of Sanders during the primary and criticized Biden in a January co-op as someone who has let down black voters, citing his former treatment of Anita Hill and relationship with segregationists. We already talked about that. Even after Sanders dropped out, she likened voting for Biden to eating a half a bowl of shit. Now, they're not giving the context on that. The context of that statement from her was that voting for Trump is like eating an entire bowl of shit, entire bowl of poop. And voting for Biden is like, it's better, you only have to eat a half a bowl. That's what she likened to it, because she didn't think he was sufficiently left-wing. She thinks he still represents some of these corporations, all of that stuff. I happen to agree slightly with that. But I also think that voting for Biden was the smart thing to do because it caused less harm to the left-wing movement than voting for Trump. Turner has stressed she's a daughter of Cleveland, and she would campaign on single-payer health care, direct payments for coronavirus relief, a $15 minimum wage, student debt cancellation, which Biden has already, or the Democrats have already talked about. Biden seems to be somewhat on board with some student debt cancellation. I would say you should cancel all of it. College should not put you in debt. And free college and trade school. Good for that article. So let's get into who Jeffrey Johnson is. This is from Wikipedia. So first thing I did was just look it up on Wikipedia, which isn't always correct. So I did some further digging. Jeffrey D. Johnson, born April 10th, 1958, is an American politician and attorney serving as a member of this Cleveland City Council for Ward 10. Johnson previously served as a councilman for Ward 8 from 1984 to 1990, and as a member of Ohio Senate from 1990 to 1998. He was raised in the Collinwood neighborhood and graduated from Collinwood High School. He holds a bachelor's degree in communications from Kent State University and a Juris Doctor and a master's degree. Okay, that's his background. Now, career. Johnson was seen as a rising star in the Democratic Party in the 1990s and announced his candidacy, I think it means candidacy, to replace retiring Representative Louis Stokes in the U.S. House of Representatives in 1998. A few weeks after his announcement, however, he was indicted on federal charges of extortion. FBI agents said between 1994 and 1996, Johnson accepted $17,000 in campaign contributions and personal loans in exchange for using his influence to land state licenses for grocers. That is textbook corruption. Now, is $17,000 a lot of money? Well, for me it is. I don't have any money. Yes, for me. For these big corruption deals, no. I mean, people take billions and millions of dollars. Really millions, sorry. Billions is kind of a stretch from influences. But it's still corruption. He's using his political influence to give people licenses. That's corruption. So I did some further digging. This is from Wikipedia. Okay, Wikipedia isn't always 100% reliable. I'll concede on that. But let's get into Cleveland Magazine. So it has some of his background. He was a classic late bloomer, a shy kid who eventually soared. So that's all of his. I'm not going to get too much into that because this is politics. On March 4th, 1998, within a couple of weeks of announcing his candidacy, Johnson was hit with a federal indictment on 4 counts of extortion and 2 counts of wire fraud, felonies. Following a 2-year FBI sting investigation, federal prosecutors determined that Johnson had violated the Hobbs Act, which outlaws taking money from political constituents for political favors. Again, textbook corruption. They claimed he had helped Ali Hamid, an Arab grocer in Johnson's 21st State Senate district, obtain coveted liquor permits, lottery license, food stamp permits, and licenses to accept food vouchers from poor women and children in exchange for money, a total of $17,000. Moving on, the jury had bought neither his entrapment defense nor that he had taken money as a legitimate campaign contribution. No, they concluded, he had shaken a local grocer down to the tune of $17,000. And he was convicted of 3 of 4. One of them was dropped. I don't remember. It doesn't. I don't know. Okay, wait. He was acquitted of the charge that he solicited money in return from helping two businesses that were trying to get contracts to operate food stamps centers in Cuyahoga County. A month earlier, two wired fraud counts had been thrown out. So yes, he was not indicted on everything, but he was convicted of a felony. So, Jeffrey Johnson, felon. That looks pretty bad, huh? So, yeah, Nina Turner, she might not work with Biden 100% of the time. I prefer her to someone who's going to work with people trying to get liquor licenses from politicians. And I like someone who doesn't shake down grocers and, take money from grocers who probably aren't even doing that well. Anyways, let's move on. I don't know how much grocers make. I'm not a genius. So the idea that, a progressive can't win. You have to run a moderate or, let's be honest, a right-wing Democrat. Medicare for All, this is from PolitiFact. Medicare for All supporters win in swing districts. If your time is short, all co-sponsors of a House bill to provide Medicare for All who are on the general election ballot won re-election, including those in swing districts, including Katie Porter, who is in a lean Republican district, +6 district, I believe. So Ocasio's campaign, Cortez, of course, when asked for evidence of her claim, provided a longer list of House Democrats that it said were in competitive races. So they said this is mostly true on this thing. So mostly true is pretty good. But anyways, that's not the point. The list included Representative Mike Levin and Katie Porter of California, who both support Medicare for all co-sponsors of House Resolution 1384, the Medicare for All Act of 2019. Levin, Porter, and Wild won seats in historically Republican districts in 2018. The idea, now 70% of the country supports it. There was one poll where 51% of Republicans support it. There was an old thing I saw. I saw this old article. Medicare for All isn't really that popular, even with Democrats. That was old. That said that 64 of Democrats only support it. Now it's 80% of Democrats support it. And that was old. That was from a year ago. We're already making progress. We have to keep making the arguments and just ask questions to people who support our for-profit corrupt system. Do you think that someone should be able to go bankrupt because of medical debt? Why is it that we're the only developed country that doesn't offer healthcare to people as a human right? Questions like that, because then they won't have an answer. Anyway, so the idea that Medicare for All does not win is just preposterous. We need to put public pressure campaigns on these Democrats who don't support it to get them primaried. That's the truth. Now, to wrap up, we should support. Now, I'm not in that district. I'm not going to tell you what district I'm in. I'm not in that district, though. But we should all support Nina Turner. She's a strong progressive. She will be a leader in this movement. And that's basically it. So Nina Turner, she doesn't take any money from corporations or from corporate PACs, I should say, from special interests. So she's a good candidate. And I didn't go into this much earlier, but there's a crowded field for the primary, which is good for her because if she's the only progressive, she can get all the progressive support, but it'll split up the votes between the moderates or, let's be honest, the right-wingers. So that's good. That's good for her. And we support her. And if she doesn't win, run again. Run again in 2022 or whenever, because this is a special election, because she will win. Cori Bush didn't win her first election. She lost, but she won her second one. So this will be good for progressives if she wins. And if she doesn't, run again. She's a strong progressive. She supports Medicare for All, free public college, all this stuff. All this stuff. So yeah. This has been Robert C. Foley of The Pink Think. Make sure to like this video. Subscribe if you want to learn more about left-wing stuff and you want to get into this movement, even if you're not a left-winger. I share my opinion. Jackie shares her opinion. Yeah. See you guys.